Hello students, I am Dr. Devdutt, Associate Professor in Community Medicine. We welcome you to the second year blog posting classes on environment and health. From today, your blog posting classes are starting. So we begin with the first topic of your blog posting, that is competency number 3.4 under the new CBM curriculum. It will describe the concept of solid waste disposal, human excreta, and solid waste disposal. So the student by the end of the session, the second year student by the end of the session is able to define sludge, sewage and solid waste. He is able to differentiate between the sewage, sludge and solid waste. He knows the methods of disposal of various wastes, and he is able to classify and understand the types of waste disposal. So what do we understand by solid waste management? It is a term which means any garbage of refuse, including sludge from a wastewater treatment plant or a waste supply treatment plant or a air pollution control facility or any other discarded material resulting from industrial, commercial, mining, agriculture operations or from any community activities. How do we classify solid waste? They are classified primarily as solid and liquid waste. Solid waste includes physical waste, chemical waste, liquid and biological waste, which can be hazardous waste. The physical waste includes source from human beings, chemical waste from the industries, and biological waste from dead plants, leaves, and animal excreta. The liquid waste includes oil, grease, or the wastewater which come from the facilities, household facilities. The necessity of having a solid waste management. Why we need to have the concept of a solid waste management? Because it can lead to increase in breeding of insects. It can lead to increase in water, air and ground pollution. It can lead to increase in the human health issues. It can lead to ozone layer depletion because of production of greenhouse gases, and it leads to uncertain changes in the climate conditions. It degrades the quality of soil, increase deforestation, and can affect the aquatic life. So what is the present generation situation in India? About 0.1 million tons of municipal solid waste is generated in India every day, with per capita waste generation in the major Indian cities range from 0.2 kg to 0.6 kg. Per capita means every person how much waste he generates in India. So the top Indian cities for waste generations we can see is Delhi, followed by Greater Mumbai, and third is Chennai. So the total waste which is generated in India annually is 62 million tons, with 43 million tons of waste which is generated is is collected, with 19 million tons not collected, and the way it is treated is not a scientific way. Out of that, 91.9 million tons is not treated, and 31 million tons is dumped in landfill. The top 5 municipal solid waste generators annually are, you can see, these countries: India, US, China, and Brazil. So it is important for as an imperative for us to properly collect, segregate, transport, store, and eventually dispose of our solid waste. So we can see the concept of solid waste disposal been very well in some cities of India, like the metropolitan cities of Greater Mumbai, of Chennai, Bangalore, or any other city or Delhi. But if we come back to the other cities or even the districts, this this method of collection and storage is in a haphazard manner. Thermal treatment is further classified into incineration, so second by pyrolysis and gasification, third is by open burn. In incineration process, the waste materials are converted into fly ash and gases. So incineration is a process which is primarily used for biomedical waste management. You are well aware of that. In pyrolysis and classification method, the waste is exposed to high temperature and low amounts of oxygen. In open burning method, which lot of cities also do, the waste is burned in the open space, which causes a lot of air pollution and which can be harmful to the population there. Solid waste methods for dumps and landfills. So we have something called as a sanitary landfill, controlled dumping, and bioreactor landfill. Let us come first to the insanitary landfill. In this method, absence of space with population pressure, the waste is just dumped in one part of the city. It is close to the population. This is an insanitary landfill. Such conditions lead rise to diseases or sometimes leaching of pollutants in the water table, as well as harmful gases in the environment, which can affect the health of the population living near the cities. A very good thing about its sanitary landfills is a sanitary landfill, the waste is dumped in an open space but which is away from the population area where the effects of wind and rain are minimized. So you can see in sanitary landfills, we can have ceilings here where the waste has to be dumped. What is the difference to a bioreactor landfill? In a bioreactor landfill, the microorganisms are used to treat the waste in the landfill to minimize the volume of the waste. So, the most important part of disposing of a solid waste is that you need a lot of area, big area, and this area is not available in Indian cities. And if we want the cities, it has to be disposed at the area which will be outside the limits of the cities. What is controlled tipping or dumping? It is similar to something called a sanitary landfill, but here in controlled tipping, they are similar to sanitary landfills but which have no cell planning. Like there was a cell planning in sanitary landfill, it's a controlled way. You just put an JCB and you dumped it on a controlled dump. Coming to the next part of our presentation is definition of sewage. Sewage includes human waste, feces and urine, as well as wastewater from various sources. So how do we differentiate it from sludge? Sludge is wastewater that arises from domestic activities such as washing in bathrooms and kitchens, including water from food preparation and dishwashing. It doesn't contain human excreta. The average amount of sewage which flows through the sewerage system in 24 hours is called as the dry weather flow. So this important term you should understand. What is the meaning of dry weather flow, which will be used in sewage treatment process. So the amount of sewage which flows through the sewerage system is called as the dry weather flow. Most important part, when the treatment of sewage will come, I will be briefing you about this. And estimated, what is the estimate amount of sewage which is generated in India? It is estimated amount of 62,000 million liters per day of sewage is generated. Out of it, the majority of the sewage, the 63% of the sewage which is generated is not treated and is just spent into the water bodies. What are the health aspects of such a thing? Creation of nuisance, unsightliness, and unpleasant odors. Untreated sewage can lead to breeding of flies, mosquitoes, and hence rampant diseases. It can lead to pollution of soil and water supplies. It can lead to contamination of food and increased incidence of disease in the population. A sewage is consists of just 0.1% of solid and 99% of water. The aims of a sewage purification are to stabilize the organic matter so that it can be disposed of safely. To convert the sewage water into an effluent of an acceptable standard of purity, what can be disposed of in land, rivers, and sea. See, every sewage has to be disposed of either in land, river, or sea. But before doing that, it's ethical always you make the sewage absolutely non-hazardous. The strength of the sewage can be measured using three parameters called as the biological oxygen demand, chemical oxygen demand, and suspended solid. For us, the biological oxygen demand is very important. What do we mean by it? It's defined as the amount of oxygen absorbed by a sample of a sewage during a specific period, generally 5 days, at a temperature of 20 degrees Celsius for aerobic destruction. It just in the other terms, it means the more the biological oxygen demand, there are more organisms and the more strength of need for treatment. So, a biological oxygen demand for natural waters to about 300 milligram per liter for untreated domestic sewage. If the biological oxygen demand is 300 milligram per liter and above, the sewage is said to be strong, and if it is 100 milligram per liter, it is said to be weak. The higher biological oxygen demand means that there are more organisms inside. Suspended solids. The amount of suspended solids in domestic sewage may vary from 100 to 500 parts per million. If the amount of suspended solids is 100 milligram per liter, the sewage is said to be weak. If the amount is 500 milligram per liter, the sewage is said to be strong. We have all discussed about soil pollution, water pollution, contamination of foods, propagation of ice using excreta disposal. Why it is imperative to dispose of excreta, and what are the various methods of excreta disposal? A sanitation barrier can prevent transmission of feces through water, fingers, flies, soil, and food, and low protected hosts. So, what is this sanitation barrier?